Hello everyone, welcome to this grade 10 maths video that is going to cover the term 3 test scope. So basically everything you can expect to cover in term 3 and what you can expect to be studying for your term 3 test. So the hope for this video is if you're looking at it at the start of term, it's just giving you a bit of insight into what you're looking at this term. And if you're looking at it just before your test, then hopefully it's helping you to revise a bit, pick out your problem areas, and remember what you need to be studying. So in term 3, you should be looking at trig functions and 2D trig, analytical geometry, stats, probability, and financial maths. We're just going to have a quick breakthrough of everything you're going to be covering in these topics, and then for each topic I'll also give you an example question. So for trig, you are going to be looking at basically if you're given a right angled triangle, you are going to be defining sine, cos, and tan. So if you are given a right angled triangle, for example, let's just draw this a bit bigger. If you're given a right angled triangle, that means it's a triangle with a right angle. They are going to tell you this is the hypotenuse, so that is the side opposite the right angle. And if you have an angle alpha, then you would have this side is opposite from that angle. So we call it the opposite side, and this side we call the adjacent side. And then we can define from that. So sine is always the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse, for instance. And you have to learn these. Cos is always the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. And tan is always the opposite side divided by the adjacent side. You're also going to be looking at some graphs of sine, cosine, and tangent. I have some nice videos already posted about trigonometric functions. That is essentially what these are. So if you are struggling with that, have a look on my channel for trig functions. Trigonometric, let's see if I can spell it. Yeah, trigonometric functions. You are going to be solving 2D problems using right angle triangles. So that is using these rules we just spoke about, and finding trig ratios for special angles. So you will get a special circle, and basically what you will be able to do is say, like, if they give you sine 30, immediately you can just say that is equal to a half. So you won't need your calculator, you can just know that straight away. That is really important. I know it's tedious to study that, but you will be using that until matric, so get on it now so it makes your life easier in the future. An example of a question in this trig section is they're going to say, find the length of the side opposite a 30-degree angle in a right angled triangle with hypotenuse 10 centimeters. So that is a lot of words. Let's try draw this first so we can see what we're working with. So we have a right angled triangle. They say the hypotenuse is 10 centimeters. So the hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle. So this is 10 centimeters. And they say we have a 30-degree angle. So it doesn't really matter where we put it. I'm just going to put it in here. They say find the length of the side opposite this angle. So we're looking at what is the length of this. And to solve this, we use our trig function, our trig ratios. So I'm going to use sine. So sine of that 30-degree angle, sine is always the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. So in this case, sine of 30, the opposite side we don't know, that's x. The hypotenuse they've given us is 10. We can take this across. I was dividing by 10. When I take it across, I'm going to times by 10. So 10 times sine 30 is equal to x. You can just plug this into your calculator, but sine of 30 is always a half. So it's going to be 10 times a half is equal to x. So 10 times a half is just 5. So x is 5 centimeters. So that is that missing angle there. Let's draw that in. Sorry, that missing length. This is 5 centimeters. You're also going to be looking at analytical geometry, which is a few more formulas to study. So finding the distance between 2 points on the Cartesian plane. So this is the distance formula that you have to know. Again, it's something that it's a little bit annoying to memorize, but you are going to use it for the next 3 years. And so this is our distance formula. So the distance between 2 points is the square root like this. It is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. You are going to find the midpoint of a line segment. So this is our midpoint formula. And this midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So it's going to give you a point. You're going to calculate the gradient of a line between 2 points. So gradient is usually represented by an m. And what it is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. That is your gradient formula, so another one to learn. And you are going to determine whether lines are parallel or perpendicular using gradients. So parallel lines have the same gradient. Perpendicular lines what happens is if you have one line MA, another line MB, if you multiply the gradients, so one line A, one line B, let's do AB and CD because that's more of a line, you get an answer of -1. Okay, so the gradient of AB times the gradient of CD gives you an answer of -1. As an example of a question in this section, find the distance between the points 1, 2, and 4, 6. So like I said, you can see they give us no formulas here. We have to know the formula straight away. The distance formula, as we know, is the square root x2 minus x1 squared add y2 minus y1 squared. Okay, so I usually just label my points. So I'm just going to say this is x1, y1, just so you're not mixing up any values. Doesn't matter which order you do it in, really. x2, y2. So if we plug in these values here, our distance is going to be x2, we said, is 4, minus x1, which is 1, squared, add y2, we said is 6, minus y1, which is 2, squared. We can just simplify a bit in the brackets. So 4 minus 1 is 3 squared. 6 minus 2 is 4 squared. Let's do the squares then. 3 squared is 9. It's 3 times 3. 4 squared is 16. So this is going to become 9 add 16 is 25. So the square root of 25, which is 5. That is our distance between those 2 points. Also this term we look at stats, which we have done this before in grade 9, definitely in grade 8. So we're looking at the mean. So remember, mean is always the average. And how we always work it out is we say the total. So we add up all the values, we get the total, and we divide it by how many there are. The median is the middle number. So you make sure all the numbers are from smallest to biggest, and you find what's in the middle. And then the mode is the most popular, or the most common. So which number appears the most, or which data point appears the most. You're going to be looking at range, which is always the largest minus the smallest. And looking at quartiles, which is something new for grade 10. You're going to be drawing and interpreting box and whisker plots. So it's going to be looking something like this. So yeah, like I say, drawing them and interpreting them and identifying outliers in a data set. So for instance, if you have people going to an ice cream shop, you want to know how many they usually buy. So most people would buy one ice cream, one ice cream, one ice cream. Maybe they'll buy 2 ice creams. But then one guy comes in and buys 100 ice creams. That is an outlier. That is quite a strange thing. It doesn't fit in with the rest of the data because most people aren't buying 100 ice creams at a time. As an example of a question in this data handling and stats section, find the median and range of this data set. So median, we said, is the middle number. Well, that's how I like to remember it. Median, middle. And what you can do is if the numbers go from smallest to biggest, which these ones do, you can just cross out until you find the middle number. So I start smallest number, cross out, biggest number, cross out. Back of the side, cross out, that side, this side, that side, and then you get your middle number is 21. So this one, our median is 21. And then find the range of the set. So range is largest minus the smallest, biggest minus smallest. Which in this case, our biggest is 35. Our smallest is 12. So 35 take away 12. So 35 take away 10 is 25. Take away 2 is 23. So that is our range. So we can see median and range. We're also looking at probability again, which is similar to what we have done in grade 9. So we're going to be looking at Venn diagrams. So they usually look something like this. And you've got 2 different events. Maybe with overlap, maybe without. You're going to be applying the addition rule for mutually exclusive events, determining probabilities of independent events, and using tree diagrams for combined events. As an example of the kind of question you might be looking at, so a straw bag, has 5 red balls and 3 blue balls. Find the probability of drawing a red ball. So how we write it is we say probability of red And basically what you say is how many red balls are there? So there are 5 red balls. How many balls are there in total? So there's 5 red and 3 blue, so there are 8 balls in total, and that is your probability there. And then finally, you're going to be looking at some financial maths, so calculating simple interest, compound interest, comparing which is the better option in different scenarios, and solving problems with higher purchase and depreciation. As an example of a question, this is a simple interest one. 2,000 Rand is invested at 8% simple interest per year. Find the value after 3 years. So again, more formulas to learn. You have to learn a simple interest formula. It looks like this. A is equal to P 1 plus IN. And so in this case, we want to find the accumulated amount, so A. Our principal amount, our starting amount is 2,000 Rand. Our interest rate is 8%. We write it as 8 over 100. And our number of years, N, is 3. We plug these values in, we're going to get 2,000 Rand times 1 plus 8 over 100 times 3 years. And then we have cool calculators for this section, so we can just plug it all in. Let's see what we get. £2,480. So that is your value after you invest it for 3 years at 8%. So that is just a really brief run through of everything you're going to be looking at in term 3 and the kind of things you should be studying for your test. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions, any videos you want me to work through. I am posting a grade 10 test, like a full work through, so also keep an eye out for that, and I really hope it helps you to revise.